Hi y'all, my name is Olivia Froelich, I'm a naturopathic doctor, and I'm here with my second installment of ranking alternative medicine for different conditions. Today we're doing painful menstrual cramps, or dysmenorrhea as we call it in the medical world and also in the research world. The first video that I did of this was ranking different alternative medicine interventions for arthritis, so that typical arthritis in your knee and your hip and your elbow, shoulder, whatever. I'm going to go ahead and link that up here. And go ahead and check that out. I think it's really fun. The feedback has been really good on it. I was really excited going into this menstrual cramps one, but then the research just isn't that good. But I guess that's why we're doing this, right? So we might see a lot of you must be new here's, maybe some posers, maybe some jocks. Maybe a little bit of girl next door. I mean, hardly ever are we going to get to the Hot Nurse Club. And also in the arthritis video, I kind of had a sense of how I was going to rank things. As I was going through the research, I was like, oh my God, for sure, hot nerd alert, But here, I really don't know where I'm going. So I'm kind of going in, not as blind, as going in blind would be. I've read the research, went through it all, kind of categorized it lightly, depending on what type of journal it was in, what the outcomes were. But other than that, I have not started kind of ranking these in my own head. So we're going to do it together. How about that? Some, baseline stuff. This is not and will never be medical advice. I ain't doing that over YouTube. I'm not doing it over Instagram, not doing it over Twitter. No medical advice. This is just some plain old fun. Also reading research in this kind of sense, I'm not reading this type of research. Well, when I'm reading research, I'm always kind of thinking of clients and how this might help certain people. However, when I was reading this research, I'm really just looking at a fun way of categorizing it. This isn't a critical eval of ranking the research. This is fun. Of course, there's some good critical, or there's some good analysis going into this, but I ain't writing a paper on it, right? We're just doing this on TierMaker. So all that blabbering, if you're interested, keep on watching and let's get into it. So again, I have on my phone just the Excel sheet of all the things that I want to review going into this. So okay, let's get started. So the first kind of grouping that we're going to go over, well, we have three groupings again, same with the arthritis. So I kind of have the supplements, vitamins grouping, then we go into botanicals or herbs, and then we're going to go into more physical interventions. So the supplement group is quite large, and parsing this research out was a little bit different. A little bit difficult rather. When I was looking for systematic reviews and meta-analyses, a lot of these papers are overall grouping nutritional and supplemental interventions for menstrual cramps. So it's not that I could find a specific systematic review or meta-analysis on melatonin or vitamin B6 or vitamin D. What I was able to find were overarching systematic reviews of just looking at a bunch of these different nutritional interventions. So baseline, the research just isn't as strong as some of the arthritis ones. So anywho, we're going to start with vitamin B1. So I essentially took two different systematic reviews from the Cochrane databases, and one was from 2016 and one was from 2001. I'll put those PubMed IDs on the screen. And this was a systematic review, Cochrane database, so good quality. So guess what? There was no high quality evidence overall. Okay, we're starting off to a bad foot. There was one crossover randomized controlled trial, one parallel group RCT. They did not report on adverse effects, so I do not like that. The crossover group showed similar results as each other. Okay, in my notes I wrote, don't really know how to feel about that. And then the other systematic review said that one large trial showed that B1 was more effective than placebo at reducing pain. So, we're just gonna start off with you must be new here. So don't come from me. when the research is lacking, right? Okay. Let's move on. Wait, these are all out of order. I want melatonin. We're going to talk about melatonin after we get through our vitamins. Vitamin B3. Y'all are going to hate this. All I have written in the column for the PubMed ID is nah. There really just like wasn't anything that I could find on vitamin B3, so I'm just gonna put that in there. The reason why I even started looking into it is because in my notes from medical school and just some other peripheral readings was that B3 was indicated or mentioned, but when I actually tried looking in the research, and even with those like overall Cochrane database systematic reviews, B3 really isn't mentioned at all. So B6s. So this is again the same two overarching Cochrane reviews. One paper is 2016, one paper is from 2001. And again, no high quality evidence overall. That second one, the one from 2001, said that vitamin B6 compared to placebo had a significant difference in the amount of ibuprofen tablets that the subjects had to take additionally. So listen, I wanna put it in, you must be new here. There just really isn't that much research. Okay, this is gonna be bad for the, this is a high school filled with lots of newbies, research evidence-wise. I know that these vitamins have been around for literally ever, but not in the research world. Niacin, this is super interesting. Niacin, right? Vitamin B7, and there really is no research on it. What I have written is old ass research that I didn't even read, like from the 1950s. So it's super old. I mean, physiologically speaking, right, niacin is going to help with dilating blood vessels. So if part of the pathophysiology of dysmenorrhea is like the constriction of blood vessels, and that might cause the pain, so maybe you would think niacin would help. But right into you must be new here. Y'all are, I mean, are you even having fun? I did all this reading and then I was like, should I make this video? And yes, we should, but it's not that fun. Vitamin C, again, that's a big old nah I have written. There's really no research. Okay, vitamin D. Here she is again. Vitamin D makes its way into every single condition. We like to put it there. So this is from the Journal of Caring Sciences, which on their website says that they're peer reviewed, but anywhere else I couldn't really find that like confirmation that it's peer reviewed. This article was from 2020. It's a systematic review and meta-analysis, and they found that there was no decrease in pain after 1 month of treatment, but reported a decrease in pain after 2 months of the intervention, and this was also after like a very, very large dose of vitamin D prescribed 5 days before the start of menstruation. So they essentially did this like huge loading dose. I don't remember the actual number, but I remember looking at it being like, skirt? That's big. So, yeah, they did this loading dose. There wasn't a change in that first cycle, like the one that started 5 days from then. And then there was a report and decrease in pain after that first month of treatment. But first of all, I'm not so trusting of that journal. I mean, like, I don't know. The website said it was peer reviewed. I guess I'll trust that. But, you know, I'm going to go right into poster because vitamin D, what are you doing? There was also a lot of talk, and this is the same thing for a lot of different conditions that try to bring in vitamin D as like a viable treatment, is that they find a lot of subjects or patients have low vitamin D to begin with, so they hypothesize that perhaps correcting that deficiency might help with whatever symptom that the person's having. So whatever, vitamin D is going to poser. They understand, right? Okay. Vitamin E, one of our antioxidants. So this again is from those two major Cochrane database systematic reviews. Again, no high quality evidence overall. They had an N of 2 when it comes to vitamin E, and there was no evidence in different pain scores between the treatment and the placebo groups. So vitamin E, I mean, the research is like, I guess you could spend your time doing a little bit more research, but it's also coming from Cochrane, so I trust how they looked at the research. You know, I'll put it in You Must Be New here. There's not that much data. We can wait on it, you know? Let's talk melatonin, shall we? This again is from that 2016 Cochrane database systematic review. No high quality evidence overall. There was only one randomized controlled trial, and this was for secondary dysmenorrhea. So this is dysmenorrhea or painful menstrual cramps caused or secondary to a different thing going on. And the evidence was even unsuitable for analysis. So melatonin right into You Must Be New here. We are just whipping through this. But don't worry, we're going to slow down a little bit when we get to herbs, and definitely when we get to the physical interventions, we're just going to like blaze through these supplements. Zinc, again, this was in the 2016 Cochrane database systematic review, and it was also mentioned in the other systematic review and meta-analysis from 2020. That was in the Journal of Caring Sciences. So again, the Cochrane database systematic reviews for all of these different supplements that they looked at stated that there was no high quality evidence overall. So that's the same for, what are we on? Zinc. There was no differences in adverse events between treatment and placebo groups. That's good that they at least reported, or that these different papers that they looked at reported on the adverse events. And then they found pain scores were lower in the treatment group, so the group that received vitamin E. And then the paper, the one from the Journal of Caring Sciences, again reported that there was no difference in pain for the first month of supplementation, but a decrease in pain for the second and third months of supplementation, which is the same thing that they said with vitamin D, which, not that that's unheard of, you know, there's going to be kind of like this loading dose where you have to keep taking it, but not for vitamin D, because that was a huge loading dose. But perhaps for the vitamin E, they had to like reach a certain level within the body before they were seeing effects. But I don't know. Sorry, You Must Be New here. Magnesium, maybe this one's going to be fun, right, everyone? We're still watching. So this is from the 2001 Cochrane Database Systematic Review. They had 3 small trials that showed magnesium was better than placebo for pain relief, and the subjects needed other medication less. And they also reported on adverse effects, and they were minimal. So you know what? We're gonna move. You know what? I'm hopeful for magnesium. She's going in Girl Next Door because Cochrane systematic review. So I trust it. 3 small trials. Fine. Okay. Low, no adverse effects, or not no, but minimal adverse effects. So good. I want to see more research. And, all 3 trials showed that magnesium was better than placebo for both pain relief and using other rescue medications, like other, pain relief medications. So magnesium, she's our first high-ranking individual. We love to see it. Okay, let's look at fish oil. Okay, so guess what? Same old, same old. We've got those 2 Cochrane database systematic reviews, 2016 and 2001. No high quality evidence overall. There was only one randomized controlled trial that looked at it versus placebo. A lot of times fish oil gets compared to these other vitamins, but I didn't really look at those, critically look at that research, because I'm just looking, I wanted an even playing field. Let's look at these interventions versus placebos, not versus other things, besides maybe standard of care, like the ibuprofen. So the visual analog scale, which is what they use for pain reporting in a lot of these, was that fish oil was better at reducing pain compared to placebo, and adverse effects were not reported on. So fish oil, You Must Be New here. I want to see more research. I'm not ready to call it a poser yet. Sorry. Okay, so we're done with our supplements. Now we're going to move on to our herbs. And remember when I said it was going to get more interesting? I lied. That was to keep you watching. So, we're just going to start off the bat by saying that there are a few that have literally no human randomized controlled trial. So I could not find, anything close to a systematic review or a meta-analysis. And I hope that there will be more in the future. For a few of these, there were some rat studies that looked at inducing essentially an endometriosis within a rat model, and then using, I think, cramp bark they did that paper with to just, start off some sort of research process with analyzing the effects of some of these herbal products. But, let's just move through it. So unfortunately, the first two I have are cramp bark, which is Viburnum opulus, and I have black haw, which is Viburnum prunifolium. Again, there's no research. So these first two ones are going into You Must Be New Here. Ooh, I wonder what's going to happen if we only have one spot left. We'll see. Okay, let's talk about Valerian. So Valerian, this was so again, I couldn't find a systematic review or a meta-analysis, but I did find this double-blinded randomized control trial from 2011. This is from the Journal of Reproduction and Infertility, and from what I could find on their website is that they're peer-reviewed. I don't know. So this is an N of 1. There were 100 participants. And when compared to placebo, Valerian reduced the pain scores from the visual analog scale. And additionally, in the Cochrane review, one of them did look at a Valerian paper. Oh, this was reported in the Valerian paper, in the Cochrane paper. Whoa, okay. Skirt. So, the double-blinded randomized control trial, which is from 2011, the Cochrane systematic review had pulled this paper to look at its evidence. So in the Cochrane review, what they said was that there was another study that looked at Valerian versus NSAIDs, and it did not perform better or as good as NSAID. So Valerian, better than placebo, but not better or as effective as an NSAID like ibuprofen. So guess what? You Must Be New Here. Is it gonna scroll? I don't know, because I got some other newbies coming up, I feel like. Anywhoozy, let's talk about Rose. So this was in the 2016 Cochrane Database Systematic Review. It did not perform as good as an NSAID, so right into You Must Be New Here. Oh, okay, good. Great. So we'll just expand that group. Okay. Praise be. We're going to talk about Ginger next. And Ginger. You got us, Ginger. So Ginger, this is from a 2016 systematic review and meta-analysis from the journal Evidence-Based Complementary and Alternative Medicine. This is a peer-reviewed journal, so good. Okay, so this is an N of 5, so they were looking at 5, or they pulled 5 different papers. 3 were Ginger versus placebo, and 2 were Ginger versus NSAIDs. They also used the visual analog scale to rate pain. And versus placebo, Ginger performed better at reducing pain severity. Okay, so Ginger beats placebo. Versus NSAIDs, there was no statistical difference between the Ginger and the NSAID. Great. It was, overall, it was better at reducing cramps and colicky pain, lower abdominal pain, nausea, and diarrhea versus the NSAID. So that's really interesting that maybe beyond just the pain, which we think of for Ginger, right, for nausea and diarrhea and just general upset, maybe it's going to help that more than just a typical NSAID would. And they did report on adverse effects such as heartburn was reported, headache was reported in one of the trials, and then overall there was a small trial size, poor methodological quality, and high heterogeneity. So that just means that overall the trials weren't as strong as they could be, and also there was a lot of differences in how they produced their experiments across the board. So how do I feel about this? I feel like Ginger, she's up and coming. We see her. We have adverse effects were reported. They were minimal, but we want to see more from her. We want her to open up, we want to get to know her, and I feel good about Ginger being there. Okay, so let's talk about black cohosh. So this is Cimicifuga, racemosa, and again, there is like nothing on this herb. So this is going right into you must be new here. Phew, so let's look at what we have so far. So of all the supplements, they're all new here, besides one poser and one girl next door, and then all of the herbs are new here versus one girl next door. So let's move on to look at some physical interventions. So I'm looking at exercise, yoga specifically, a TENS unit, which is kind of like a cutaneous pad, or you put a pad on your skin and it helps, or it produces kind of muscle contractions underneath by producing kind of an electrical input. And then also looking at heat. So this can be a heating pad is what they often looked at, or like, the hot water bottle pad. So looking at exercise, this is a 2019 systematic review from the Cochrane database of systematic review. So check, we love that. They looked at 12 different papers. So there were 854 women within the review. So over all those 12 different papers, there were 854 women. And then for the meta-analysis, they pulled 10 of those papers for a total of 754 women. And for the exercise, they did at least 3 times a week, 45 to 60 minutes each time, low or high intensity. It was better compared to no exercise for improving pain. So if they did that on an ongoing basis, there were better pain results. It improved the visual analog scale, and there's not much evidence about changing the symptoms or use of emergency pain meds. So they didn't actually look at, or there wasn't clear evidence of those women taking less of those kind of emergency pain relief medicines, and about changing the symptoms. So I don't think there was much like actual lack of some of those symptoms. They just might have been improved a little bit. And then only one study reported on the adverse effects of exercising, which is important. We always think of exercising and movement, obviously there's risks with everything, but it's important to keep that in mind. So, exercise is going to be, we know where exercise goes. Hot Nerds Club. I'm biased. We can just get that out of the way. I'm biased. I think exercise is great. And I think this evidence is pretty good. The amount of papers that they were able to pull, the number of women that were essentially all together within those papers that they were reporting on. So I think that, and listen, something's got to go up here. Come on now, give me exercise, okay? Okay, let's look at yoga. So this was a meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials from 2019, and this was in the journal Complementary Therapies in Clinical Practice. So this was an N of 4. Across the 4 different papers, there were different yoga styles and poses, different lengths and frequencies, so very high heterogeneity. They compared yoga to doing nothing and the outcome that they were looking at were for cramps. None reported on adverse effects, so I don't like that. There was no double blinding in 2 of the studies, which means that double blinding would be when the participant or the patient is blinded to if they're receiving the intervention or a control, and also the double blinding part of that is if the physicians or the researchers also don't know who's receiving each. So for things like this, like for a lot of the physical interventions like yoga, it's very, very difficult to blind that, because if they tell you to do these yoga poses, then there's, you can suspect that you might be in the intervention. Of course, there's like sham things, like for the, if you think back to, I think the laser therapy for arthritis, they had like the fake, or maybe I didn't talk about this, but essentially they had like different machines that wouldn't actually emit the laser, but they had like the same beeping noises, and the doctors would still press the button, so it looked to the patient that they could have been receiving an intervention, but they really weren't. So that's a way to blind that. But anywho, all this to say, Um, I need more, you know? And, you know, the girl next door, maybe she does yoga, but we need to see a little bit more evidence about if it's actually, like, what it's doing, how it's doing it, whatever. Do yoga if you want. Be safe, you know? Okay, let's talk about TENS unit. So this is this weird looking thing with the little pads. So this was a systematic review and meta-analysis from 2020 in the journal Explore. It was N of 4, 260 participants, and they conducted this meta-analysis to determine if TENS was effective at decreasing pain via the visual analog scale, and I think one other scale compared to sham TENS. So sham is going to be like, you know, a fake machine or a machine that isn't actually delivering a therapeutic procedure. So they did high frequency TENS for a duration of 20 to 30 minutes, and 3 of the 4 reported no adverse effects of TENS. And I don't actually know if it decreased. Please hold. Okay, I'm back. Just took a look back at that paper because for some reason I didn't actually write the outcome in my little note thing. So they found, I just read it, all 4. Yes, all 4 of the trials and the pooled kind of like the actual meta-analysis look at those 4 trials did show that TENS was more effective than sham TENS. And interestingly, 2 of those trials, they all use sham TENS as the control. 2 of them found that sham TENS was also helpful for it, but not as helpful as TENS. So overall, TENS was effective, and I'm going to they're going to be our okay jock. Let me tell you why. Thanks for asking why. So, okay. I don't know, actually. Because Hot Nerds Club is like the top of the top. Girl Next Door is like promising, but I want more research. I mean, I could be Girl Next Door. Okay Jock is like, okay, you work, you're good, you just look really cool. So maybe I'm going to keep him there. Listen, if you disagree, let me know. And then, hey, I would love in the future to do an update on this one. Maybe we get some little bit more research on here. We find if it's good or bad. We can put it in the posers. Maybe some of them will be elevated to Girl Next Door. Maybe Hot Nerds Club. Maybe some of these herbs will bump up. So you know what? TENS is going to be okay, Jock, and I don't want to hear it. Okay, last one is going to be heat application. And this is a systematic review and meta-analysis from 2018 in the glorious journal Scientific Reports, so definitely peer-reviewed. This was an N of 3, so they looked at 3 different papers. Superficial heat, 40 to 45 degrees Celsius. 104 degrees Fahrenheit. The heat was better than analgesic medication or nothing. So like not doing heat was better than that. And also analgesic medication, heat was better than that. However, some studies showed that heat plus ibuprofen was the same as no heat plus ibuprofen. So in that case, they're essentially showing that heat doesn't really do anything over the top that ibuprofen doesn't already take care of. And the heat group reported less severe, though not statistically significant menstrual symptoms. So overall, I mean, I think that it, and I don't want to like put words into why this might be so, but hey, it's my video, my channel. What I'm going to say is it just like feels really nice. Like when you have those cramps and you feel overall not good, it can be really comforting to have a heating pad or to be in a hot bath. So I think that that has something to do with it. And yeah, I think it's fine. I think that maybe we can put it in, it's not a poser because it plays a role. It's not a jock. You know what? It's heat. It's going to go into Hot Nerds Club. You know? Okay, this one, that's it. We ranked them all. There were a lot of newbies here. One poser, vitamin D, who could have guessed it? Tens is our jock. We've got some girl next door. You know, we've got one from each category. We have magnesium from the supplements, we have ginger from the herbs, and we have yoga from the physical. And then our Hot Nerds Club is exercise and heat, because heat deserves to be a hot nerd, right? It works. Do it or don't do it. I don't know. If you disagreed with any of my rankings, please let me know. Put them in the comments. Not that I can really do anything about it, but let's talk about it because, again, I would love to come back to this or, you know, every few months or a year come back and try to update these because I hope that we get more research on all of these, right? We want to know more. So again, I hope you liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe. I'm hoping to be doing more and more of these videos. They're really fun. My next one is going to be type 2 diabetes. Very exciting. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Again, go ahead and check out that other arthritis ranking video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.